As my partner previously mentioned, legalizing prostitution in brothels will suppress the spread of STDs. No health laws can be mandated unless prostitution is legalized. Last year, there were 1.2 new cases of chlamydia, a sometimes symptomless infection that can lead to infertility in women. Johnny agrees that this STD has raised, and it means that we need to do something about it. About 13,500 cases of syphilis were reported in 2008, and that's up from last year's rate. And the government estimates that the virus causes 6.2 million cases every year. This is a significant amount of cases of STD that have potentially serious health risks. Chancroid, an STD typically found in third world nations, is occurring in places throughout the U.S. due to the transmission brought on by illegal prostitution. In places where prostitution is legal, there are measures in place that are protecting the health of the women and their clients. Published in the Nevada Brothel Times, after 1985 with the advent of AIDS, Nevada law required customers to wear condoms for both intercourse and oral sex. Currently, prostitutes cannot require their customers to wear a condom, but in places where it's legal, if a client refuses to use one, they face punishment. Manuel Noriega, the person in charge of running a city's health clinic in Mexico, explains that the city is now issuing a new license that looks like a credit card with a photo. A prostitute working there explains that you cannot work without it. If you don't have it, the police will take you away and make you pay a fine. Taking exams ensures that the women will not spread disease. It keeps them as well as their customers healthy. In addition to the weekly test, anytime any of the ladies leave the property, they have to be retested. The tests take about 24 hours to process, and the woman cannot work while their results are pending. In legal brothels, prostitutes are not the only ones who undergo testing. Before a customer pays, he is required to reveal himself to the prostitute. She shines a special lamp on his genitals that is supposed to illuminate any sores associated with certain STDs. So this shows that not only are women being protected, but the men as well. So if the men are found to have an STD, then that just reiterates why condom use has to be enforced. There's also a very interesting correlation between STD rates and the legality of prostitution. In Singapore, where prostitution is legal, their rates for people living with HIV/AIDS and HIV/AIDS deaths per year for 1,000 people is 0.9 and 0.05 respectively. In the United States, that same rate is 3.0 and 0.07. These statistics suggest that regulated prostitution can, in fact, contribute to suppressing STDs. Second point is that legalizing prostitution creates a tax source. Even if we're in a recession, sex always sells, so that shouldn't be an issue. Netherlands officials estimate that the sexual transactions in Amsterdam account for 100 million of the country's income. And Susan Austin, the owner of the Wild Horse Ranch brothel in Nevada, states that most people do not know that a brothel can provide up to $500,000 to a local rural government in terms of taxes and fees. There is so much potential tax revenue that can be collected from the earnings of brothels and their workers that can be used to fund schools and other community services. Other tax revenue would be collected through brothels' liquor license fees and bar sales tax. In Nevada, legal prostitution has been an economic benefit from revenues such as these fees. And in Nevada, brothels are required to purchase a state business license with fees of $25 per employee on a quarterly basis. So these are just a few examples of all the tax revenue legal prostitution can generate. Prostitutes need protection. Creating government-regulated brothels is the way to do that. In response to the open question, what do you fear most, 81.9% of prostitutes said that they fear being raped, physically assaulted, or murdered. And that's a very high percentage. Putting prostitutes in brothels where they will not be controlled by pimps is another factor to protecting them. To address the issue of trafficking, whether or not prostitution is legalized, there will always be the possibility of trafficking, but if prostitution is legalized, that will help control it because it puts brothel owners at risk if they choose to traffic women. And also, the brothels are subject to government inspection at any time, So that also instills fear in brothel owners to not allow trafficking. Davis, a former prostitute, says that the fact that brothels are given legal rights gives owners and prostitutes the freedom to call the law enforcement anytime. If a client does not cooperate with the brothel and government's rules, prostitutes have the protection to report them. And this also instills fear in the clients to cooperate with the brothel's rules. Putting prostitutes in regulated brothels gives them the protection they need that they do not get on the streets. My last claim is that legalizing prostitution brothels will encourage prostitutes to get off the streets and get in more safe environments. And I'm going to explain this by using some zoning codes that are already in force in Nevada. And Code 30.48.540 says that no adult use shall be conducted in any manner that permits the observation of any material depicting, describing, or relating to specified sexual activities from any public way or from any property not registered as adult use. This provision shall apply to any display, decoration, sign, show window, or other opening. So there are already current laws that say where brothels can be and how they can operate that protect society and protect children. Another code says that the applicant shall provide evidence certified by a professional land surveyor licensed in the state of Nevada that demonstrate conformity with the separation requirements listed below. So in order to have a brothel, there needs to be a 1,500-foot minimum separation from any residential use, public library, park, daycare facility, school, or place of worship, a 1,000-foot separation from any other existing adult use, and a 660-foot minimum separation from any mixed-use or mixed-use development. So this zoning code addresses the issues of keeping prostitution away from children and plain sight. And strip clubs are essentially very similar, so they're allowed to operate in most communities like brothels as long as they're under strict guidelines. And the last code says that the signs for adult use cannot contain emphasis by wording, pictures, or otherwise on matter related to sexual manners and activities. So this code ensures that minors will not be subject to suggestive images that are not appropriate for them.